Welcome back to Beyond the Blocks. This week we're joined by Nate Spell, CEO of Barrier 4, who's known on Roblox as Where Is My Shirt? Thankfully, it looks like you managed to find one for today's episode, so how are you doing, Nate?
I am doing my best. How you guys doing?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. I'm sure you've heard that dad joke like a million times, but,
Way too
but yeah.
much.
But today we're going to chat about Barrier 4 and the idea of Roblox-based businesses that aren't the typical game studios and avatar fashion designers. But first, we're your hosts. I'm Adam.
I'm Fedor.
And I'm Anthony.
So, Nate, the audience have probably seen your work, maybe without realizing that it was Barrier 4. So, in a sentence or two, just like, what does your company do?
Yeah, so we're Barrier 4. We're a full-service production studio that specializes on Roblox. So that's game trailers, video content, and brand integrations.
It's a really interesting concept. I think a lot of people probably think of like game studios and avatar accessories as like the way to make a business on Roblox, and sort of a way to make money. I think there's always been sort of independent graphics designers and like VFX designers that you'd go to sort of make a one-off thumbnail or a game icon. But to sort of turn that into a much more fleshed out, successful business, providing sort of a fuller package, is something that I think even today is quite unique to the platform, would you say?
It's becoming less and less unique. I mean, more and more people are seeing the opportunity. I did start out as that individual person doing graphic design. That's actually how I started in the space, doing game icons and game thumbnails for who are now like the biggest developers on the platform. So like Preston, freaking the Adopt Me developers. Like I was working with them all 11 years ago, and I started out doing graphic design, exactly how you just talked about.
That's awesome. That's really cool to see that sort of path through to turning it into something something bigger and more successful.
On the topic of the sort of agency format being a bit more mainstream now, I remember there's a time period where it felt like everybody was making an agency for just about everything, and it seems like that's kind of cooled off now. What were your thoughts when you kind of saw that popping off on Twitter? Did you kind of recognize it as a bit of a fad, or?
Um, I don't know if it's a fad. I think it's a reflection of kind of the soul and the mindset of the people our age. Everyone kind of has like an entrepreneurial bug, and Roblox popping up as a big opportunity. A lot of people saw that and wanted to capitalize on it, which I don't blame them. I think so. You mentioned it's like kind of fallen off, which it has. It's not happening as much, and I think it's because they realize how difficult it is to run an agency, because a lot of people start a company with a great idea and then do it for a little bit, and then it gets really, really hard. And that's why most
Yeah.
people stop doing it. I don't know what the percentages are, but like, I don't know, a big percentage of startups shut down. And it's because it's a lot more work than you would expect before jumping in. Yeah,
It's
so I
a
don't
huge
blame them.
achievement. It's a huge achievement to have made it successful. I think I kind of wanted to jump back in time and sort of walk through from when you first found Roblox through to today and kind of hear that journey, hear the struggles, hear how you managed to make that achievement when, as you say, a lot of other startups have failed and given up. So we're going to go right back to the start, to when you first found the platform Roblox. How did you come across it, and sort of where were you in your life?
Yeah. Okay. So that was a long time ago. I think it was 14 years ago now. So I was 11 years old, 2011, playing a website called Miniclip. I don't know if you guys heard about Miniclip. It was like a lot of 2D, I think some very low level 3D games. I would spend a ton of time on Miniclip. And one day, well, for a while, I was seeing Roblox ads pop up, but it didn't really seem interesting to me. I don't know if it's because it was bad creative or what, but I saw Roblox ads, and eventually one day I decided to click on it. And I didn't set up an account because back then you could play as a guest. So I had like the create an account on Roblox.com on the back, like you're playing as a guest. Got hooked
Yeah.
from that point on because there was plenty of stuff to do on the platform back then, and it was way different than what I was used to on Miniclip, which was mostly 2D games. Early 2012, January, I created my first account. I wasn't where's my shirt? Back then I was Who's Your Daddy 22. And that's so it's Hoosier, like Hoosier, because I live in Indiana and or for some reason called Hoosiers. And I was watching a military movie when I created my account, and he said, like the drill sergeant was yelling at the privates and said, "Who's your daddy?" And I was thinking like, Hoosier, and then daddy, and then Who's Your Daddy. So I created my account at 12 years old called Who's Your Daddy for some reason. Went with that for a little bit. And started playing it way too much. Way too much. It'd be 3 a.m., 4 a.m. playing natural disaster survival, epic mini games, whatever, at 3 or 4 a.m. And somehow my parents like would wake up and walk to the front room because they just like felt the aura of me on Roblox and would yell at me to go to bed because it's 3 or 4 a.m. I would do that every night, spending way too much time on the platform. That built up to my parents kind of giving me an ultimatum. And they said, you spend too much time on the platform. You have to either stop entirely or start making money. Like put your time to good use. And I didn't really have any other skills besides I messed around in Photoshop a bunch. I liked making videos with my friends. So I just started reaching out to developers. Back then, there was this thing called the Roblox forums. So it was like all things Roblox, Roblox talk, off topic. And I started chatting in those forums, met a lot of really cool people, started working with some people like the Gamer 101, Monkree's Ghost, Preston, back in 2012, maybe like early 2013 as well. And they said, hey, we need some UIs for our game. We need some game icons, game thumbnails, graphics to help promote this. And I knew enough. I knew how to take screenshots in game. I knew how to go in the studio and pose some characters. I knew how to piece it together in Photoshop and make it look half decent. And started doing that for these people. They would pay me, I don't know, 10,000 Robux. And then I would save that up. DevX wasn't a thing at the time, so I was just getting Robux. Eventually, I wanted to actually make real money, so I had them start paying me PayPal. And I did that for a little bit. Eventually, I started to get a little bit creative and decided I wanted to start a Roblox magazine. So I to kind of back that up a little bit, and I'll speed through this because it's such a long story, but I was going to change my company name at the time, which at the time was called Vidophobic. Made no sense. I don't know what Vidophobic means, like you're scared of video or whatever. I was going to change it to them, just them, THEM. And I created a fake magazine cover with my Roblox character, them behind the head of the Roblox character, some like fake article titles, and I posted that on Twitter. Got the attention of a ton of people in the comments saying, "Oh, you're starting a Roblox magazine," and I thought that'd be freaking dope. So might as well. So I got a bunch of people that I knew to write some articles. I designed all of the pages, and we launched our first issue, which had like 15 pages in it. I had no intention really to go beyond that, but Roblox, like corporate, saw it and thought it was super dope, and they actually reached out to me and asked if we can make another issue and then print it for the Roblox developer conferences. And we did that, and we can dive into that more later. But went from graphic design to magazine to kind of where we are today, and that's like the super fast, high speed. Like, how did we get here? But I think the funniest thing is I was Who's Your Daddy 22, and that's what I was known for the longest time.
I feel like that's the kind of username that would probably get blocked today. But back then, it was a bit more of a free for all with usernames.
I was working a lot with Roblox directly back then as well, 2014 through 2016, and this is around the time that they were starting the Roblox toys. So Series 1 Roblox toys, I was on the short list to become a Season 1 Roblox toy, and I was doing phone calls with them, everything, and they eventually removed me from the short list because their team decided that my six-pack abs, I had six-pack abs on my character, and my Roblox username was Who's Your Daddy 22, so it probably wouldn't be smart or family-friendly to launch me as a Roblox toy. So I missed out.
That is heartbreaking. Yeah.
No, that's so funny. Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on kind of the next topic, which was going to be about the magazine that you started. Was that your first kind of entrepreneurial idea? Was that the start of you exploring creating these sorts of Roblox based businesses, or was that, as you say, more of just an accident? You posted something that looked cool and it took off.
It was definitely an accident. I don't think it was my first like entrepreneurial like pursuit, because before I was doing lawn mowing for like my entire neighborhood. I was 8 years old, uh, all the way through like 15, mowing lawns for everyone. And that was my first like real business where I made money. But them magazines was my first like intentional, like I really want to build this into something uh, beyond just myself. But yeah, it was initially an accident. Um, really only happened because the community asked if I was making a magazine, and I thought it was a good idea. Um, but there was a lot more potential to grow that than just like lawn mowing. Um,
Mm.
Yeah, I
and
think I
that
think magazines were quite hot on Roblox about 10 years ago. Anyway, at least in-game magazines. I remember there was like I can't even remember what it's called now, but yeah, there was a Roblox magazine where you'd put like a giver in your place, and like people could walk up to it and take a magazine and read it. Is that where their magazine was, or was it sort of a
No,
bit more
I
of
don't
an
think we
official
ever launched
magazine?
in game. But we also, yeah, we weren't the first Roblox magazine either. That's like the funny thing. I also don't remember who I know what you're thinking of, and I can't think of it either. And I kind of want to go back and find it because they did a really good job. Um, but no, we never really launched. We immediately launched into like actually printing the magazines in person. We kind of strayed away from the digital side of things, though we did focus a lot on that, but we went straight physical, which is super dope. Because when I walked into RDC 2016, into the big conference room, and every single seat, and every single table had a copy of our magazine, like that was the coolest thing ever to see at 16 years
That
old.
that is awesome. Foreshadowing some topics later, but kind of that idea of bridging the virtual and the physical world is very, very cool. At that point, was the magazine kind of aimed more at players, creators, or was there not really a distinction back then in 2016?
There was the distinction was developers and creatives. So in the magazine, there were articles about like graphic design tutorials, articles about how to program your XYZ. We had interviews with YouTubers who kind of talked about their story. We had interviews with like other successful developers who talked about their story. So we really definitely focused on creatives like myself, and then developers broadly on the Roblox platform.
Nice. And then I think you guys lent into that even harder, right? Sort of targeting developers, and I believe you ran a bit of a coding academy not too long after this as well. What caused that pivot and sort of the change into that business plan, and kind of what was that like running that while still at school being taught yourself?
Yeah, well, the other thing is I was such a bad student. I was in school, yes, but um, I I would intentionally like schedule meetings and reasons to get out of school to focus on this. Um, but the pivot to a coding academy made no sense, honestly, in hindsight. The other like context is them magazines being my first like legitimate business, legitimate opportunity to grow something. I learned a ridiculous amount of stuff. I made a lot of mistakes, and made a lot of bad decisions. I don't think necessarily like switching to a coding academy was a bad decision, because that was like a really interesting time. We took all of the like things that we learned from the magazine in the same like mission, the same like we want to inspire and educate game developers. We want to inspire and educate creatives. And the coding academy, which for the people listening, the context is we would sell courses around Roblox development to students in person. So we would host in-person classes, and we would fly out or pay for a developer to come teach that. We had one of the developers of Vehicle Simulator, which was a really big game back in the day, come out and teach these kids aged 8 to about 15 how to program on Roblox. And I think the reason we like fully pivoted away from the magazine at that point was because I can only focus on growing one thing at a time. Realistically, I think that magazines had a much longer runway but also I made a lot of like bad decisions. I just didn't set it up correctly, and then decided it'd be easier just to start a completely new thing. And we did that, and it did decently well. In the first summer of running this coding academy, we ran about 600 students through those courses, which is crazy. And we also pitched like in competitions the idea of teaching kids how to program on Roblox, and we won pitch competitions. Again, like I'm learning just a ridiculous amount of time, like things throughout this time. And after that first summer, we stopped doing the coding academy. We just completely stopped. Again, no like rational reason other than I want to do something else. So we did Them magazines for about 2 years, Them Academy for about a little less than a year, and then I got burnt out on Roblox. And this is like 2017. And my pivot from Roblox was, let's just start making videos and doing everything I was doing on Roblox, but for local businesses. And I started filming with like fire departments, nursing homes, politicians, police departments. And this is like me making like little like 1-minute videos about this is what we do, this is our mission, this is how you can find us, and just did a bunch of those. I helped a mayor win his campaign in my city at freaking 17 years old, which was awesome. But this is also when I started like really building up like actual fundamental business skills, because I'm dealing with thousands of dollars per project versus like Robux. So I'm like genuinely learning how to build a real business in person, how to network and connect with people, paying taxes, getting insurance, like really learning how to build a business outside of Roblox. And also, you mentioned we'll talk about this later, but like this is also where I'm like getting connections with police departments, which will lead to ultimately what's going to slingshot Barrier 4 into what it is today.
Nice. I think that company, correct me if the name's wrong, but was called 3 Media, right?
It was called 3 Media, yes.
Nice. And then did you change that to Barrier 4 when it became Roblox focused?
Yes, exactly. It was called 3 Media because Them Magazines was my first company, Them Academy was my second company, and 3 Media was my third company. So it's 3, my third company. And I figured let's continue the trend. My next company's got to be Barrier, or it's got to be like 4 in it. And thinking about like what I wanted to do on Roblox. And there's so much stuff, so much context I'm like kind of jumping over. COVID happened during 3 Media's time. COVID happened and shut everything down. No one needed video because everything shut down. Everyone's trying to avoid everyone. So I'm now locked into my house with all of this video production gear, and I'm forced to pivot to Roblox. But that's a completely separate story. But Barrier 4, yes, 4th company, had to continue the trend. My next company is going to be something 5 or have like 5 in it. It's gotta, and I'm just going to keep doing that my entire life. So I have like a company 100 or whatever.
I was going to say in 20 years' time, yeah.
Yeah.
What number will we be on at that point? That's cool.
And just a quick question about that academy bit, which we've kind of moved on from. I'm
Sure.
kind of curious, out of the roughly 600 students you mentioned you had, have you run into any of them since at like developer conferences? You know, any front page developers we know that got their start at the Them Academy?
That's actually a really good question. Not that I know of. I hope that happens. That'd be so cool to have someone come up and say, "Hey, I went through your course, and now I have like 10,000 CCU." I think that would be such like a cool like way to close that out. But no, it hasn't happened yet.
So if you're out there, reach out. I think kind of the next thing that we can really talk about that you alluded to is Barrier 4. And as some, I guess, personal context, I ended up briefly, this is sort of the time when I began working with you in a meaningful capacity, where I think it started out with the work you did for MGL, I believe, right? Or yeah, is it MLG or MGL? I can't
Yeah,
quite
MGL.
remember.
Yep.
MGL. And I actually came from a very similar background where I was doing graphic design for a bit and I like wanted to figure out how to make money with it. And at some point I like replied to one of your tweets and managed to you liked my work enough to hire me, which was quite crazy. But I guess now that we kind of know that how and why you shifted to Roblox, sort of a question that I had about the nature of building out like sort of a real business on the platform is it's Roblox is very frequently viewed as like a one-hit wonder kind of platform where like you tweeted recently yourself, I think, that you could have $1 million a month, and then suddenly you go back down to zero. And that's sort of something that I've personally experienced, and I think every developer has experienced, and at some scale, probably every business owner has experienced. So a question that I had is how you've kind of managed to keep growing Barrier 4 over the years, and with 3 Media, how did you not like see this COVID thing that completely killed your entire business as as kind of this death knell for everything, and just as an opportunity to keep growing, I suppose.
Yeah, revenue swings are brutal. And I think that's also going back to what we talked about earlier, why a lot of people shut down because they'll have like a really big month and get like super hyped up and think the world's great. I'm going to be rich.
Mhm.
This is going to work out great. And then they're going to have their first bad month and maybe even lose money. And then it's just all over. And like, unless you're like mentally prepared for that and like, it's coming and you know that it's part of business. That's why I think a lot of people just give up and stop pursuing it because just naturally, especially in the early years of business, uh, the revenue is going to be all over the place. You probably won't even make. Here's the other thing. I remember asking my mentor back when I was doing the coding academy. I said, "When do I like start like really making money?" Because I feel like I've been like working really, really hard for a really long time, and I can't even really make over a couple $1,000s a month. Um, and I don't remember what he said. I just remember asking that question, and it took 8 years for me to make my first $100,000 in revenue in a company. Eight years of like really hard work, a lot of stress, in building that up. And I guess like the one reason like I like didn't give up when like I wasn't seeing the revenue, is because I had nowhere else to go. I had no fallback, and I for sure was not going to get a job working for someone else. That's torture to me. Just the idea of like someone telling me what to do and like dictating my schedule. I cannot like live with that. So I had genuinely no other route to go other than forward, no matter what happened. And the way I grew it to where we are now, which is multiple seven figures in revenue a year, we have a team of 30, was up until, a year or two ago, which was entirely brute force. It was nothing matters besides success. Nothing matters besides growing this company. Even if like 1 month is bad, 2 months are bad, 3 months are bad, like we got to keep pushing forward. And kind of like in Nemo, where Dorothy says, or is it who's it? Dorothy just like whoever the character is like saying, just keep swimming. Like
Yeah.
you just got to keep going and just keep swimming in business because there's no other option if you really want to be successful. And I've adopted that mindset of just one foot in front of the other, just keep pushing forward no matter what. And that's how we got here.
Growing a business can sometimes be a bit of a balance, right? You say that there's sometimes a big month, and as an entrepreneur, you can get pretty excited and want to scale really quickly, and then you've screwed yourself over when then the next month isn't so good. But at the same time, a lot of people in business will sort of be like, you've got to chase the opportunities and not let them pass you by, and kind of the balance of don't scale too quick, but take the opportunities that come, and sort of how do you balance between those two, both over the years and also like today? How would you balance those?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much of a balance. I think it's more so like making sure you select the right opportunities because you can be presented with a lot of really big, exciting opportunities. And if you take them all, you're gonna kind of end up with nothing. You have to select what you think is best and kind of have that that ability to decipher what is a good opportunity or not. So for me, it's just really analyzing what the opportunity is and deciding if it's worth pursuing, even if it can bring in a ton of revenue. I think the biggest lesson that I learned, and I keep learning it over and over and over, is easy money typically isn't easy. Like someone can come to you and say, I have $100,000. This will be probably the easiest thing you ever do. I just need you to do X, Y, Z. And it sounds awesome. Sounds like a lot of money. Sounds like a great opportunity. But then you find out easy money is never really easy money. And there's always something that's going to make it just horrible. And you really got to look at the opportunity and decide if it's worth pursuing. So that's the biggest thing. But also, I think there's security in growing slowly. So I would rather spend 10 years growing my company to $1 million than making $1 million in the first year, because you learn and build up systems and processes in the team to support that $1 million, versus if you make it all at once and you don't have any foundation or any structure to support it, you're going to lose it just as fast as you made it. So there's definitely a lot of security in growing slowly. And that's how we got to where we are now. It's been about 10 years since I've started what is Barrier 4 now, and building up the team has taken, and like Fedor, he started with us, building up the right people and the right team to support that, it takes time. So yeah, I think, there's no real way to balance it. It's just selecting the right opportunities and growing slowly and growing intentionally.
That's a really interesting perspective.
Basically, with selecting opportunities and moving on to new projects, you've mentioned really that the only time you've gone from from the academy from the them academy to 3 Media, and from them as a magazine to the academy, was when you felt bored and uninterested. So there's not really been any times when you'd quit a venture because it wasn't working out. It was really only just when you were no longer interested in working on that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, is there a point where you quit on stuff just because the sunk cost fallacy isn't worth it?
I think on a smaller scale, yes. And it's not, I've not quit a business because it's not worked out. Because like I've been doing Barrier 4 for the past 10 years. And I quit the other two because bored, wanted to do something new. But as we built up Barrier 4, first of all, we started doing anything and everything. So we did like Discord management, we did social media content, we did strategy, we did consulting for whatever reason. We did game trailers, brand integrations, like you name it, we did everything. And it's on a smaller scale, we've quit and stopped doing the things that don't have a big return on investment. Another that we're not actually experts in, and just opportunities that really don't make sense for us as a company. So like consulting doesn't make a ton of sense for us, especially if it's like how to grow your Roblox game, because there's a lot more like that goes into growing a Roblox game than just like marketing. Like you have to have like the right stats, monetize it properly. Like we should not be touching that, and we determined that early on. And it's just been 10 years of dialing in what our niche is, what we want to specialize in, and doing that versus doing everything. So right now we have like 3 core services. It's video production, it's game trailers. So when I say video production, the difference between video production and game trailers, video production can be anything like animation, social media content, etc. Game trailers is its own thing. And then we have brand integrations, where we put brands into existing games in the platform. And those are the 3 things that we just focus 100% on. And that's benefited us greatly by just dialing in our services. So I only really quit when it doesn't make sense for us to be pursuing it, even if there's money in it.
I think the consultancy thing is a little bit funny. There's always that age-old question of like, what does a consultant actually do? And now I think it's probably even harder to answer the question of, but I'm so curious, what does a Roblox consultant actually do? And did that just not make sense? Did that like just not work out?
It was like I grew up in like a community of entrepreneurs who like, it was like fake it till you make it. So like pretend to be an expert. And also like the community I was in, like they would pay to get verified check marks on Twitter. They would pay to be interviewed on Forbes.
Well, that's very easy these days. It's amazing
Yeah.
get a check mark.
So it was fake it till you make it. And me as a consultant, like it was kind of just faking it. Which, dude, it made no sense. Like I don't know anything about like what makes like how do you make like a million CCU game? Like I shouldn't be consulting anyone on that. So to answer your
I don't think
question, what does
anyone
a
knows.
consultant do? I do nothing. That's why I don't do consulting.
That's really interesting. I'm going to take us on a very brief detour and then we'll come back to Barrier 4. But I think part of that journey as you pivoted there in that year of COVID, that sort of 2020 era when everything online was blowing up, you started a podcast called Roadblocks, which was interviewing creators and was a very, very interesting watch. I think the first season of Beyond the Blox, this podcast sort of also came around that time. I think we sort of were the latter half of 2019, and we just did it audio only for the first sort of couple of seasons. Found a lot of creators didn't necessarily want their face on the platform as well, so it was handy. But you guys launched with video, and I think this was video podcast probably wasn't as big back then as it is today. Everyone's doing a video podcast today. So I think that was quite interesting. But the other thing that you added to it was just high quality production. And I just don't think we'd seen anything like that for Roblox at that time. Sort of this high production quality, talking to these massive creators. It was very, very inspiring. How did that come about? How did you view Roadblocks? What was the purpose of that for you?
A couple things on that. Obviously, yes, started the podcast because of COVID. I had all of this like video gear. I had a cool light, I had a microphone, and I had a camera that I can film with. And then I also had all of these friends that I made on Roblox over the past few years who all had pretty cool stories that I felt like, while we're all locked inside, we might as well tell the world about your stories. I called it Roadblocks, so because it makes sense, Roblox, but also because a lot of my journey up until that point was, to put it bluntly, just a lot of suffering, a lot of like learning really tough lessons, a lot of just getting through really difficult things. So my story has a lot of like roadblocks in it. And I wanted to kind of follow that and hear other people's stories, the challenges that they went through, the roadblocks that they went through on Roblox. And that's what kicked off that podcast. And yeah, everyone's locked in their house. So I reached out to a bunch of people and we started just talking. We used Zoom back then and would record my screen, and then they would send me the audio afterwards, and we would sync it all up, jump into their game, get some cool cinematic footage, do a little like cool montage at the start, and use the editing skills that I learned from making videos for local businesses to kind of piece together a story. And that's obviously like really enjoyable content. Like I liked my own videos. Like I would watch them as like just a regular viewer. Like it was fun to hear those stories and see like the footage of their game alongside that. And after a few of those interviews, like one of the developers asked me to make a trailer for their game because they liked the montage that we made at the start, and it was emergency response. And because of the videos I'm making for the local police departments, and I loved emergency response, I spent most of my time during COVID playing emergency response, Liberty County. When they asked me to make a trailer, I was thinking, what's the coolest possible thing we can do? And I reached out to my contact at the local police department and I said, hey, can you stage a fake police chase for my Roblox trailer? And they said, yeah, sure. We'll see you in 30 minutes. And we met up 30 minutes later, came up with the concept in that little 30-minute gap where we wanted the cop to pull over someone, lights and sirens, and then that person's going to take off and run from him. And then he will stomp on the gas, speed by, and then as he speeds by, I'm going to be standing outside with my camera, and we're going to do a whip transition from this real life police chase, whip into a in-game police chase. And that's the hook that we created for my first ever game trailer. And then we led into the rest of the gameplay. When we posted this on YouTube, obviously it did really well. Emergency response had about like 3,000 or 4,000 CCU at the time. This video got millions of views organically. Super shareable video. And that, I think, helped them kind of get in front of more people, which led into bigger CCU, But that's what kicked off the whole like game trailer niche that Barrier 4 started focusing on, because this video did so well and it was so fun to produce. We just wanted to keep doing more and more of it.
As you say, millions of views, which for a game trailer for a Roblox game is incredible, especially at the time. This was sort of 5 or 6 years ago now. Was that your first exploration into game trailers? Had you done a little bit of that before, or was it literally just these montages just caught people's attention?
It was just the montages. I hadn't even really watched game trailers for other games like on Steam or like AAA games. I don't even like I didn't even watch game trailers. I just knew how to make a montage. I knew how to record something, and I knew how to like pace the energy so it was fun to watch. So yeah, I that was the first game trailer ever that I ever made with no like reference material, no idea how to make a game trailer. I just did it and it happened and it worked out.
Did you know at the time that this was all of the puzzle pieces fitting together, the connections you'd made, your sort of interest in media, and then this opportunity to create game trailers, sort of everything up to that point feels like it all fell into place. And then, as you say, you've now been able to follow that for the past 10 years. Did you know at the time that you'd found something quite special there?
No. In hindsight, yes. But like in the moment, everything's foggy and you don't really know what you have. But no, I didn't know it at the time. And that's the thing, I just kept doing it. People kept asking me. Eventually around the when was it, like 2023 or 2022, the brand boom happened and all of these brands are making games on the platform. And then they started asking me for trailers and I just kept doing it. If people kept asking me to do it, I'll keep doing it. And it just snowballed.
That seems to sort of be your formula for success over the years, just doing things even if you necessarily aren't the most qualified to do them at the start, and
Yeah.
just keeping it going.
Yeah, just do something and then do it long enough and it will probably eventually work out. And in my case, it did.
Another thing I was a little bit curious is that you mentioned that Barrier 4 now has somewhat like nearly 30 employees, whereas when you started them, it was literally just you and Photoshop throwing together some fun mock-ups. Do you think you could walk us through how you grew your teams and kind of when you knew was the right time to expand, or was it even ever that formal, or was it just sort of like oh, I need somebody to do this for me, so I'll just go pay somebody to do it?
Yeah, dude, for the longest time, it was unintentional growth. So I would just, obviously, the brand boom is kind of when things really started to take off and we started getting more work than we could handle. When I say we, it was me and like you, a couple other people that would help out every now and then. No one was really full time. I was the only one full time. I was editing the videos, planning the videos, talking to the client, selling the project, building the company, and then I would have some people help out. But yeah, there's like stages where like you grow a little bit too much and you got to get some help. And whether it's good or bad, I kind of sell too much and I have to grow the team. My team, like I get them so much work, it's annoying. But yeah, we just got into positions where we were forced to grow. So we had to go out and find these people and build a team because I can't do everything. And also, if we want to get better at what we do, I got to find people who are better at video production and better at 3D modeling, better at whatever than I am. And that's how we kept going. But it was just forced growth. We had to grow. It was a grow or die.
And do you have any advice on how to? This is something that I'm personally struggling with as I scale my game development stuff, separate from the video work that I did for Barrier 4. Do you have any advice for really like finding the right people? I think that's something that can make or break a lot of projects, and I've personally experienced projects that have just fallen apart because of a few bad pieces.
Yeah, a big part of my story is hiring the wrong people, and that causes a lot of pain when you hire the wrong people. And finding the right people is a challenge in itself, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. I think the baseline thing is kind of building a character of like, this is the ideal person I want for my company. These are the values I want them to have. This is how I want them to communicate. Like, this is the ideal person I want on my team. And then when you go out talking to people, make sure they like fit those criteria. And I'm not even talking about like job description. Like you can find someone, and I've done this, who seems like a unicorn in the space, and they are like perfect. They have everything. They have all the experience. They have all the skills. They seem like the best person possible for my company, and I hire them. And then I find out, oh, we don't share the same values. So they're going to like react to things and take action differently than what we feel comfortable with as a company. And then also the biggest thing, especially this year and last year, that we're focusing on is they can have the same values, they can have the skill set, but do they fit into the culture that you're trying to build? Like, do they get along with the team members? Would you hang out with them outside of the company and actually get along? That to me, like hiring for culture is like the number one most important thing. And then it's like making sure they align with you and then they have the skill set. But it's a matter of just running the numbers. It's talking to as many people as possible and finding that one person that fits it for you. Because otherwise, if you try to rush it, you'll get the wrong person, and that will cause even more pain than you would want to deal with. So my long answer short is it's really difficult. Good luck. You just got to keep talking to people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, on to some fun stuff now. What is the craziest trailer or piece of content that you guys have created as Barrier 4? We talked a little bit about that ERLC trailer and it transitioning from real life into the game, but yeah, what's the craziest one? You know, just you never thought you'd be doing this as part of a Roblox trailer or content.
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind. I think the craziest one, and I don't even remember what it was. It was like within the 2022. It was 2022. We were working with a company called Sawhorse. So they are another production studio. They build experiences for brands, and we were doing their game trailers, their game capture, and they brought us in on a project for a guy named Elton John, really famous singer, and Fedora, I don't know if you were definitely around during this time. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we filmed a trailer and a bunch of content for Elton John's Roblox concert, and turned out great. In his last ever U.S. concert in L.A. Dodger Stadium, he played our footage like on the screen while they're playing "Don't Go Breaking My Heart," like one of his most popular songs. Our Roblox characters are flying around on the big screen in front of tens of thousands of people in the L.A. Dodger Stadium for Elton John's last ever U.S. concert. That was absolutely surreal. So that was probably our craziest Roblox project.
I think I'd lose my mind if my content played in Elton John's last US performance. So was that content all produced just natively in Roblox?
Yes, that's kind of our whole like mindset around how we produce content is it needs to feel and look like Roblox. Like we just pushed the first episode of a series that we're launching with Roblox, where we animate in platform, we capture in platform, and that's because it's got to look like Roblox if it's going to be on Roblox's like page. And like all the game trailers that we produce, all of the animation, all the game capture, everything that we do is natively within the platform, because you don't want a player to see a trailer that looks awesome, super like effects heavy, 3D rendered, whatever, and then you jump in and it's a completely different experience. We want the trailers to look awesome, but also tell the correct story and the accurate story of what the player's about to get into.
So it's purely for sort of stylistic and honesty kind of purposes, rather than like a logistical thing. Would you say it's harder or easier to do it natively?
My team would say it's harder for sure, because you have to like do a lot of problem solving, because Roblox is not an animation platform.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of bugs and things you got to work around to make it look awesome. So it's more difficult for sure.
So what's next for Barrier 4? Where are you expanding to next? What's the next big thing? What can we expect to see?
The next big thing is doing exactly what we're doing and for as long as possible. So we're really dialing in, like we want to continue doing game trailers, video production, brand integrations, and we want to focus entirely on that. So the way I'm growing the company right now is we're optimizing for stability. We're optimizing for like structure and security for the team. Like we're really like building the foundation of the company, and focusing on that over like substantial growth and expanding into different areas. We thought about Fortnite and Minecraft. We've done some stuff in both. But Roblox is really where our hearts are at, and also where generally the opportunity is. Fortnite has some cool stuff going on, but like Roblox is really where like things are. So we're hyper focused. We're not looking to change anything. We want to just be the best at what we do, and build from there.
I did hear on another interview you're a big fan of 21 Pilots and would be interested in doing something creative with them. Let me know if that opportunity arises, as if anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge fan too. The storylines would be awesome to bring to life. So let me know. I want to be a part of that.
Did you see the Lego recreation of one of the 21 Pilots music videos?
Yes, yeah. It looks
So
sick.
that would be sick to do on Roblox. Like do like recreations of their music videos on Roblox.
Recreation music videos, the whole Dima like storyline, like create that in Roblox, like all of that stuff. So if that comes your way, if that comes across your desk, definitely hit me up.
Yes, I really want to make that happen. I wasn't even thinking about the storylines and all that. They have such a good story that needs to be told outside of concerts. Yes, we got to make it happen.
Well, that's all we've got for you this week. A special thanks to Nate Spell for chatting with us today. We've had an excellent conversation. We've learned loads about growing businesses on Roblox and animation, and heard lots of funny stories. So
yeah, it's been fantastic. Thanks for coming on.
For sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Be sure to like, share, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Beyond the Blox is produced by Seb Jensen for Last Level Studios. Watch on YouTube and Spotify, listen wherever you get your podcasts, and catch updates every week on TikTok and Shorts.